Bitcoin is still trading right underneath a major point of resistance, as the price of Bitcoin is now starting to break to the downside from this price pattern, but this could be a trap in the short term because the Bitcoin liquidation heat map is revealing where the price is likely heading next. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. The weekly Bitcoin chart, and right now the price of Bitcoin is obviously still looking very bullish on the larger. The last couple of times this bull market signal has confirmed on the weekly time frame, essentially a breakout in the weekly Bitcoin RSI. We've seen a huge bull market in the price of Bitcoin both of these previous times, and that bull market has lasted for at least the next 1 year or so. And so obviously, simply based on this signal right here, this is telling us that we're likely going to see a continued bull market on the larger time frames well into 2025. But remember, during these larger bull markets we can see little pullbacks and things like that along the way on the smaller time frames. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, of course right now we're still seeing a lot of bullish momentum in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. So once again, the larger time frame still looking bullish. And if we're taking a look at this 4-day Bitcoin chart, the super trendy indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish market. So once again, all of these larger time frames are still currently looking very bullish right now. But if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, at least for now the price of Bitcoin is still trading right underneath a major point of resistance at approximately $102,000 per Bitcoin, because that is the 1618 Fibonacci extension level on this weekly time frame right here at around 102k. So as I've been saying recently here on the channel, at around 100k to 102k, expect the price to struggle there on the price chart, because that is currently strong resistance. But once we see a confirmed breakout beyond 102,000 with candle closes ideally on the weekly time frame above 102k, then in that case this level would likely become new support and would likely start heading up toward this next Fibonacci extension level on this 3-day time frame, which is the 2618 Fibonacci extension level at around $113,000 per Bitcoin as the next major price target after we first confirm a breakout above around 100k to 102k. And of course, we still have this previous Fibonacci extension right here currently acting as support, and that's sitting at approximately 89,000. And we also have short-term support at approximately 92 to 93,000 as well. And if we're taking a look at this 12-hour time frame, obviously, as I've been saying over the last few days, I've said it's very likely that we're most likely just going to see some sideways price action chopping around sideways in the short term after that latest very volatile move that we saw a couple of days ago. And that's simply due to the fact that usually after we see a very volatile move like that, we usually end up seeing the price of Bitcoin basically just chop around sideways and kind of cool off a little bit in the short term after that extreme volatility. So that's what we're doing right now. We're not really seeing a lot of volatility right now, but we're getting ready for that next major volatile move. And in case you're new to this channel, right now the price of Bitcoin here in the current day price action on the right hand side of the screen is looking quite similar, especially when we're looking at the RSI, similar to what we saw exactly 4 years ago near the end of 2020, because back then that was the last bull cycle in the price of Bitcoin. So obviously back then we were looking bullish on the larger time frames, but at around 20,000 give or take, just like how right now at around 100,000 give or take we're struggling quite a lot. And at the same time we were playing out a bearish divergence on the 12-hour time frame back then, exactly like right now we're playing out a bearish divergence on the 12-hour Bitcoin chart, with higher highs confirmed in the price of Bitcoin and lower highs confirmed here in the 12-hour Bitcoin RSI. And so in case you're new to all of this, once again, a bearish divergence means that we're most likely going to see either some choppy sideways price action or maybe even a bit of a pullback in the short term, because it essentially just means don't really expect a lot of bullish momentum, at least in the immediate short term here. And usually on the 12-hour time frame, these play over basically a few days, maybe a few weeks they take to play out before they start to lose relevance. And so ultimately we just have to be patient here in the short term. It is quite likely that at least for the next few days, maybe even another week, once again we could chop around sideways here, basically consolidate at around 100k give or take, before ultimately seeing that next major breakout to continue the larger bull market. We have confirmed a break to the downside here with candle closes below this ascending line of support, which was sitting at around 99.9k approximately. And so technically speaking, this confirms the break to the downside for this pattern, which sets up a short-term bearish price target based on this symmetrical triangle pattern right here. And that bearish price target is sitting at around 93,500, so basically this low right here. And from where we are right now to that price target, that's a possible 6% move to the downside. But of course, we cannot just rely everything on this one pattern by itself. We need to look at many different factors to help determine what is most likely going to play out here in the short term. And right now, if we're looking at this 2-hour Bitcoin MACD, we can see the momentum in the market right now, at least in the price of Bitcoin, the momentum is extremely flat. And so even though we've technically broken to the downside here from this triangle pattern, once again, the momentum, and if we're looking at the trajectory in the price of Bitcoin, at least as of recording this video, we've barely gone to the downside here. Essentially, the price is just chopping around sideways while we're seeing almost no momentum. And so personally, in my trading strategy, I will not be taking this trade right here for two reasons. The first reason is, of course, the lack in momentum. Obviously, if we're taking a short position, for example, we would ideally want to see a lot of bearish momentum to be confident in a short position. Personally, I try to only look for long positions during a bull market, and then during a bear market, I usually try to look at short positions. It is possible you can short the price of Bitcoin and be profitable during a bull market on these little pullbacks here, or long the price of Bitcoin during a bear market on these little bounces back to the upside, but ultimately the shorts are going to be more profitable in a bear market and the longs are going to be more profitable in a bull market. And so due to those reasons, personally, I'll not be taking this trade right here. And obviously, as of right now, in the price of Bitcoin at the time of recording this video, we're extremely close to even invalidating this break right here, because if the price simply breaks out back above this point on the price chart, especially above this line right here, which is currently sitting at around 100.2k, so just above 100k, if we break out back above that level, that would invalidate this break to the downside and invalidate this bearish price target. And as for short-term support and resistance to watch out for, we do have short-term support right here based on previous support and previous resistance, and that's currently sitting at around 97.1k, so just above 97,000. We do have a decent amount of short-term support just there, and we have more support at around 95.7k and a significant amount of support at around 93,500. Right now, we have a lot of liquidity that is starting to build to the upside above the current price of Bitcoin here in the short term. And first of all, if we're looking at what happened around half a week ago, give or take, we had a lot of liquidity above the current price of Bitcoin back then around half a week ago. And so what we saw was the price of Bitcoin moved straight up towards that liquidity, because usually these areas of liquidity are kind of like magnets. They usually try to attract the price of Bitcoin towards those areas. And then especially if the price of Bitcoin starts breaking out above these areas of liquidity, if we're going to the upside, breaking out upside liquidity above the price, that liquidates short positions, causing a short squeeze, which can push the price much higher. As we saw right here, that was a short squeeze that occurred roughly around half a week ago. But then that short squeeze ran out of fuel because we ran out of liquidity that was fueling that short squeeze. So once we ran out of liquidity here, we started to slow down that pump and start to see a little bit of a sideways consolidation, and then we started to pull back a little bit. The